Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Matthew Dickerson, Dubbo Regional Council Mayor. How are you this morning?
Good, thanks, Nathan. Thanks for chatting to me about all things council.
Now, there's some crime data that's just come out.
It's been interesting. There's been a lot of chat about crime over the last few weeks, maybe month or so, and some people have been very concerned about the crime levels in and around Dubbo. And I would love to see zero crime, Nathan, but the harsh reality of the modern world we live in is there is going to be some crime. The biggest concern seemed to be that many people were thinking that the crime was spiralling out of control. There were social media sites calling for curfews, dusk to dawn curfews. There were people calling for crime summits, all sorts of things. And what I was saying during that process was, well, the data till the end of December doesn't show that things are completely out of control, but things might have changed a bit. But let's wait and see the data, because we shouldn't just base it on the fact that maybe you saw one car that was stolen or your friend had a break into their house. Let's see what the data shows. Now, Boxar, the Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research, comes out with their data. They have that data on a 3-month basis, and the March data just came out last week. So it is delayed a little bit, but the data to the end of March, and I had a look at that data. There's a lot of data. The main report that comes out is about a 57-page report, so there's a huge amount of data that comes out. But I wanted to see whether there'd been a spike in crime for the first 3 months of this year. So let's look at the rolling 12 months where you're comparing a 3-month period at a time. And what I found from that was quite interesting. One of the things that people talked a lot about was motor vehicles being stolen. And across the state, there's no doubt about it, that's gone up. It's gone up by 4.6% on that rolling 12-month period. But in Dubbo, it had only gone up by 0.3%. Now, it's still an increase. I'd still like to see a decrease. I'd still like to see it down to zero. But the harsh reality is it's going to happen. And the increase wasn't anywhere near as bad as it was across the state. So that wasn't too bad. Break and enter into a dwelling was another crime category. And that basically means people having their houses broken into. Across the state, that went up by 1.2%. In Dubbo, that it went down by 6.5%. And when I talk about Dubbo, this is Dubbo Regional Council local government area. So this encompasses Dubbo and Wellington and the various villages that make up the council area. So this is across that whole area. So breaking into your house went down by 6.5%. Sexual assault is another one that we see, which is obviously an incredibly scary crime for people. And sexual touching, sexual act and other sexual offences, those two different categories there. Sexual assault went up by 0.6% across the state, went down by 16.3% in Dubbo. And sexual touching, sexual act and other sexual offences is the name of that, the other category that was of interest to some people. That went up by 0.6% across the state, went down by 9.1% in Dubbo. So it wasn't all doom and gloom for Dubbo. It's still, crime is still there, but I think the police are doing a very good job in getting on top of some of the crime. And then obviously the court system has got to do something with the criminals once they're found and once they're caught. So it's a fairly complicated process. Where council is involved in this is obviously we don't control the police or the courts or the sentencing system. The main role that we can play is getting the various agencies together and making sure they're all talking and discussing crime and solutions to crime. And I think we're doing that fairly well at the moment.
Okay. Well, Dubbo's been celebrating Philippines Independence Day.
Yeah, this is the 125th Philippine Independence Day. We had a flag-raising ceremony on Saturday morning. Vic Avila, the president of the Irana Region Filipino Australian Association, was there. He organises a lot of that and organises a lot of activities for the Filipino community in Dubbo. The Vice Consul, Francis Louisa Clairfas, was in Dubbo as well over the weekend. And so the flag raising had probably 150 people there gathered to watch the flag raising, and then there was a dinner held on Saturday night. And again, it's just one of those great things when you're living in a regional area such as Dubbo and you've got lots of different communities that settle, so communities from around the world that settle here in Dubbo. It's really interesting to learn about different cultures. It's interesting to learn about different things, even just the fact that we're there celebrating their Independence Day 125 years after their independence here in Dubbo. On the Saturday night, I got to have a go at some dancing. My ankle survived dancing, but one of the traditional dances they have in the Philippines is with two bamboo sticks that are clapped together in certain rhythms. And so you've got to be careful that you don't have your ankles taken out from underneath you. But I got a chance to have do some dancing with the Vice Consul there on Saturday night at the Independence Dinner. So again, just a great Filipino community we have here in Dubbo, and it's great to see them celebrating their culture while they're living in a new country.
Yeah, great that Dubbo can celebrate its multiculturalism.
Yeah, you're
Now,
right.
I believe you've been in Canberra recently too.
Yeah, I was in Canberra. Actually, ran into the Burke Mayor while I was in Canberra there. It's a thing called the National General Assembly, and it happens each year in Canberra, where all 537 councils from across the nation are invited to Canberra to have some discussions with government, discussions with other councils, listen to some presentations, and most of those councils do make it along. Most councils said it's very valuable to go along there to this particular few days. So we did get to listen to some various conference presentations. We got to listen to Anthony Albanese. We had some presentations from some ministers, got to really hear about some issues across the nation. And it is amazing when you get all those councils together how similar some of our issues are. Homelessness and lack of housing was two big issues that were talked about. Many people talked about the fact that they had issues with employment. In other words, they had employers who needed more employees, but they just can't get enough employees. But then when they get those employees, there's not enough housing. So that was an issue. Certainly climate change and some of our solutions were talked about. We had a presentation from Saul Griffith, who's very well known as a renewable energy advocate. So it was a really good opportunity to talk to various parts of government, and I think some of the important ministers I certainly got a chance to have a chat to. Chris Bowen, the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, had a very good discussion with Chris, and Catherine King, who's the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, had a good chance to talk to Catherine as well. So it's good just to be able to have those ministers hear about various issues that we're experiencing in regional areas and just really make sure they're understanding of some of the issues, some of the challenges we have, and try and work on solutions to those challenges. So I think a good few days in Canberra.
Okay, and a big morning tea happening today.
Yeah, I'm down to Wellington for the Wellington Senior Citizens Club, the biggest morning tea. I'll be doing a bit of poetry for them, some poetry recitals there while I'm there, and really just enjoying talking to some of the senior citizens and talking about issues that they might have down there in Wellington. I do get to Wellington fairly regularly, and it is a good chance to hear from Wellington residents about various things that are important to them.
Sounds great. Matthew, thank you for your time.
Always my pleasure, Nathan. Hopefully your listeners are interested in what's happening in Dubbo and the region.
Fantastic. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Nathan.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.